cook something else. And of course, we always made wine, staple. But that's what we had here. We had that for many, many years. And I know that somebody was talking a few minutes ago about the fire department and the police department. We knew all those guys. They were all local guys. Ray goes way back before Ray. My great-grandfather was one of the first fire chiefs in Albany. And we have been a small town since its inception, which goes clear back right after the earthquake, the 06. And I'd like to see it stay that way myself.
Talking about animals, twin brother and I were born in 22. We were born in 1922. We live on Key Route, and my dad had 2 goats. We had a cow. My mother would do the milking, and we grew our own groceries, our own veggies. We had shared with the neighbors. So I've lived here since 22. Beautiful city, beautiful people, and I want to stay around a little longer.
I just had a thought I'd like to share. One of the proudest days of my life is at a football game right over here in Memorial Park. None of the schools, well, first of all, Albany was in the ACAL. We played Piedmont, we played Richmond, we played Hayward, we played Alameda, I think so. No, not El Cerrito, that was too small. That was too small a school. We played Berkeley. Now, all of these schools had a school population boarding 2,000-3,000 students. We had a school population of 900. Well, that included 8th and 9th graders who weren't eligible to play. Probably some of them would have been pretty good, but anyway, they weren't eligible. So we were always the underdog. But the other schools never liked to come to Albany to play football. Why? We didn't have grass on that side of this building. We had a dirt field. They didn't like that dirt. Well, anyway, we played a game against Berkeley. It was in 1940, I think, 1 or 2, and we won it 3-0. And it just so happened, in my memory, I could be wrong in this, the fellow that kicked the field goal, his name was Anderson. And later on in the game, he broke his foot. And he had a cast on it, and for the next month, that cast was we wanted to put it up on the mantle there somewhere. Anyway, that was one of my proud days.
Tell them how we played ball, bro.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. Talking about food in the old days, Jack. You know, West Berkeley and Albany, there was a lot of Italian families. And in the fall, when they were crushing the grape for the wine, oh, what a beautiful smell. You could go anywhere in town and you could smell the grapes being crushed. Yeah, it was great. And the other thing, when I was a kid, Berkeley didn't allow fireworks or firecrackers. And I guess because we had such a good fire department, Ray, in Albany, you could buy real firecrackers in Albany. And so during the 4th of July, a week or 2 before the 4th, every merchant along San Pablo Avenue would put up a fireworks booth in front of his store, and people would come from all over to buy firecrackers. And I lived just on the other side of the line over in Berkeley, and I remember I came over and got a bunch of firecrackers, and I was out in front of my house just having a heck of a good time, and here comes a Berkeley cop. He says, "Where did you get those?" I said, "Oh, over in Albany." He said, "Well, you got to give them to me now. They're against the law in Berkeley." And I thought, "Oh, this is terrible."
I've got one more to say about transportation that we may have forgot, because it's a little story that goes with it. But we did have a Greyhound station down in in Albany. It's at San Pablo, and where Max's Liquor is at. But I was on duty, this is 1951, and I was the rookie fireman. But on Thursdays, we mowed the lawn. It was right out in front of the station. And I was out there mowing the lawn, and this young lady comes down. She had a suitcase in one hand and a handbag in the other. And she asked me for this name. She named some name, and it was supposed to be on Washington. Well, I didn't know much about it, so I called, and one of the firemen was standing over by the side door by the gas pump, and it was Wally Collins. So he came over, and he took the woman, into the station to go on the map. Well, the lady came up and walking the way up to Washington, across the street, but now I've gone up. So Wally comes up to me and he says, "Hey," he says, "you know where she was going?" And I said, "Geez, I don't know." I said, "That's why I sent her to you." I said, "I don't know the addresses and stuff." And she says, "Well, she's going over to this apartment it was on Pierce, not Pierce, but yeah, Washington and Pierce, and it was a house that Bill Reproof. We used to call Mama's there. So I don't know if anybody really knew if that was there, but it was kind of a secret. But no, this is actually. Yeah, well, maybe, but I didn't know. But this is one of the stories there. I mean, it's in a mixed crowd, but he did apparently have one of those. But then El Cerrito had a couple of them. And the fact is, when I was on one of the fires that we had, that we were called in, was a wagon wheel. When that burned down. But then El Cerrito did require Albany's assistance to put that one out. In fact, it was on fires. Some of the biggest fires I fought have been in El Cerrito and one in Berkeley. When we had the fire down at the meat place, the meat house there, down on the 2nd Street. You know. My son worked there. He used to kill the cattle there.
On the theme of resilience, I'd like to talk a little bit about the skills that we acquire in just the course of things from our parents or from home economics classes or shop classes, working on cars, whether we had to rely on mechanics for even the smallest things, or in terms of our clothing. So you can talk about your parents too. Let's see if somebody wants to go in that direction. One of the things we want to really focus on, Transition Albany's focus on resiliency and doing for ourselves and not being dependent on consumer behavior and outside suppliers. So I'm asking about people that learn to cook, to sew, to fix cars, to do any number of things. And Jewel, it looks like maybe you've been chosen?
There are a lot of subjects that were talked about earlier that I could have spoken on, but resiliency right at this point, I don't know. I want to say that the conductor on the Dinky's name was Frenchie, and my father knew him very well. Goes back a long ways. But I thought we were talking more about the 40s and 50s, but I have to say that as far as resiliency, I don't think my family, my brothers all worked on our cars, I remember that. I don't ever remember them going to a station or anywhere to get the cars fixed. We had a small garden in the backyard, my mother had quite a rose garden, to be honest with you, in our backyard, but she did have a little plot. And all I can remember is she grew zucchini and Swiss chard, and we had zucchini and Swiss chard constantly. But as far as other resiliency, my father was a dentist in San Francisco, and a lot of memories of him commuting on the ferries to San Francisco and coming back and writing the